So I'm going to go ahead and share it to my page, my personal page, and real quick, but we are indeed live right now on the Voices of Strength page. So when you guys join us, go ahead and say hello. Let us know you guys are here. Feel free to leave comments throughout this broadcast. We will read them and get back to them, even if we don't see them now. And I'm just sharing it into the event real quick. We have a few people on with us, so hello to you guys. We'll be getting started in just a moment. If you guys are joining us, please feel free to share this to your page and any groups you may be in and with people who may need to see this. Okay, so we have a few people on with us. Hello, we will go ahead and get started. We are broadcasting live through Zoom via Facebook page on the Voice of Strength. My name is Marissa Barrera, and this is episode 8 of our Voices of Strength series. We do a weekly series where we speak to the families from across the nation who are impacted by police killings, meaning police have killed our loved ones. And this week we are talking about Vincent Valenzuela, and we have his aunt Marie Cofinco with us today. So hello, Marie. Thank you for being with us. Can you give a quick introduction, please?
Yes, good evening. I'm so happy to be here to share my nephew's story. You know, it's painful. I'm going on 5 years. You know, tonight I said I'm going to say his story without crying because it is very emotional and it triggers. So my name's Marie Cofinco, and I'm the aunt of Furman Vincent Valenzuela, and he was murdered by chokehold on July 2nd, 2016. By 3 officers. Officer Daniel Wolf strangled my nephew with the help of Wu Jen Jun and Sergeant Daniel Gonzalez.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for sharing. Thank you again for being here. Just, you know what you said, it's not easy being here. It's not easy speaking on these matters. And I just commend all the families out there who are joining us, even if they're watching right now or fighting for their loved ones, speaking out. I do want to start this off before we get started talking about your nephew and his life and what happened. I want to share something really quick. There is a recent murder by Riverside County sheriffs. Last week, Ernie Serrano was killed by them, and it's in a similar way that your nephew was attacked, as well as my brother. So I just want to put this out there for people to see that a thought going through my mind today was, you know what, it hurts so bad to see the new families coming on and, you know, living through this nightmare and this pain. And what really triggered me today was seeing the mother of him and his sister during the press conference having to defend his character, and just getting a lot of attacks from people. So much love their way, and to all of us families, because we've experienced that.
Yes, one thing I do want to say, and I want to share to the people that are on, the folks that are on. In 2015, Anaheim ranked the 9th among the 60 largest U.S. cities in that rate officer-involved death. That was based on an FBI data. And they're among Los Angeles, Atlanta, Boston, New York, and San Francisco as one of the deadliest police organization, and that's in Anaheim. So, so that you guys know what Anaheim residents in the community are dealing with these officers in Anaheim.
Thank you.
I was raised in Anaheim. I went to elementary, I went to junior high and high school, and I moved out to my community back in 85. I didn't want to raise my children there because of what my family had endured in the late 70s and the 80s with these Anaheim cops. I
Wow.
remember one time they came to my mom's house and they came to look for my brothers, and they knocked my mother down, and she ended up breaking her hip.
My
And that was
goodness.
it was in the 80s, back then when there was no cell phones. So
Goodness.
they're very, very corrupt, and they're in the news a lot. I mean, they're well known through the community as a corrupt department.
Goodness. That's so horrible. I'm sorry to hear that, even, at a young age that you seen that, years ago, way before this even happened. Goodness. Thank you for sharing. So let's go ahead and I will be sharing some pictures, you guys. Just want to give everybody heads up, sharing some pictures of the family and her nephew as she's speaking and sharing. And then a little later, we're going to share some different ones that will have a trigger warning. But for now, I want to know more about your nephew, just more about your guys' life, anything about him that you want to share with us that could remind people that are watching or people that may watch in the future that he was a human being. He was a person and had loved ones and family.
As a child, he was very, very lovable child, but there was a lot of things going on, that he was living with his paternal great grandmother and her husband. So as a child, he was abused and sexually abused. And I learned all about that at the trial. When my nephew was 11 to 12, I did have him living with me. And, he was very, very hard because he was a hurt child. And unfortunately, I had to give him back to my sister Norma because he started a little fire in the garage. And at that time, I had 3 children, and my husband, said, "We cannot see." That's him in the background when he was living with me.
Okay.
So I had to send him back because I had 3 of my own, and he was broken. I couldn't fix him, and I feel bad for that. And my mother, right here in this picture, she really loved him, and she wanted to have custody, but it was really hard to have custody because the Anaheim attorneys wanted my mom to turn her back on her own sons, and that was the only way that she would be able to have custody of my nephew and his sister that you see right here in this photo. So I did the best I could, you know. Sometimes I have to live with that. Well, not sometimes, but I do live with that guilt that maybe if I would have just, had him a little bit longer, I could have made a difference. And this is him with my family, his father. So he was a happy baby. You see that in the picture, he was very happy. Even the picture that he's with me at that time, he was living with me, and he loved Thanksgiving. That's him at my house. Later on in his life, I would say in his late 20s, 30s, I wasn't so much involved. I which, as anybody knows, when a kid gets in their 20s and 30s, they don't want anything to do with family. They're out, out there in the world. But this is at my mom's cemetery. That's all of us, and my nephew and his sister, and my sister Norma's kids. And this is my mother and my brother and the wife and the 2 children. And there is my brother again with his 2 kids. You know,
You
it's
guys have a lot of good pictures, a lot of nice pictures. I really liked going through those and putting them together.
Yeah, and he was so lovable. I mean, I signed him up in karate, so when he lived with me, I had him in karate. So I try to put him in a lot of activities, you know. So I did my best, and I wish I could have done more for him.
So he had a troubled life, and a lot of people go through something like that. So thank you for letting me share those. And um so let's go into what happened and get into, I know there's so much to it. I know you guys are, when my brother was killed, you guys were some of the early families that I met. And so been, at least 3+ years. And I've got to follow the story. It was one of the actual first videos I watched. So people, viewing can know that this is on video. And I'll let Marie get into the details. But let's start. I want to start with what was your perception on police before your nephew was killed? And then if you can share how you found out, and just you can go into it from there.
Well, like a lot of us family, I trust the cops, but then again, I didn't because of the history that we had with the Anaheim PD.
Mhm.
The day of July 2nd, I'll never forget it. My brother, Benny, Alex Valenzuela, he called to tell me that, they beat up Ebee. That was his childhood name, that he beat him up. And he's in a coma right now. So, that's when I found out. He called me really early in the morning to let me know that what had happened. So we didn't find out till a year and 4 months after, when the second video was released on how what the cause of death was. We thought that maybe it was the tase, that they tased him, too many times up in the chest. So for a year and 4 months, we thought that that's what had happened, and we
So
waited.
you just thought it was that they beat him up and maybe died from the taser for the first year and 4 months. So
Yes,
okay, let's go back to the first couple days. So how long? So he was in the hospital. And how
in a
long did that happen? And did anything, like, what happened between the cops and what they were telling you guys, just interactions?
well, for one, they wouldn't let us see him for 3 days, and he was in a coma. Okay. Also, people were coming forward. I have a video that was sent to me. I think my sister Lulu sent it to me. There was a witness that saw what happened, and he said he was afraid of coming forward because he didn't have his papers. They left him in the parking lot for about 4 hours before they took him to the hospital. And from the report, he had a few heart attacks. And they took him to the hospital, hooked him up on all the machines, and wouldn't let us see him for about 3 days. And then finally, we got a lawyer, and we were able to see him. And they had him handcuffed to the bed. Imagine that. He was already, in my eyes, he was already dead. He was dead. They were just trying to kill time to come up with a narrative and explanation as to, we all know
Yeah.
they're creating a story, to put out there to the public. And so he was in a coma and handcuffed, and we
Handcuffed.
couldn't see him.
And took you guys 3 days to even get to be able to see him and be in there with him, and only because you guys obtained attorneys.
Yes,
That's
yes,
horrible. Goodness.
yes. So, yeah, I downloaded some documents. Anyone can do that. It's public information. I know a lot of the families don't receive anything from the lawyers, as my brother didn't, but I was on top of it. I got a lot of my documentation from DACA Bird, I believe, or Bird DACA. And that way that I wanted to know what was going on from the beginning until, the trial. So I mean, I can go into what happened on July 2nd. I wrote a little bit something.
Okay,
here.
yes, goodness. Yeah, go ahead and, go into it however feels best for you.
Okay, I wrote something up because sometimes when I start to say the story, it's a trigger. It's like a big scab that's being peeled off, and I have to relive it. I after we found out what they did to my nephew, I went to the city hall and to the council meeting, and I made a huge poster because I want to share the exact truth on what they did to my nephew. And I knew it was going to be a full house. ACLU was going to be there, and it's right next to the Anaheim PD. So I wanted to make noise, and a loud noise, and I wanted to show the pictures on the still photos on the strangulation that they did to my nephew. And I also recorded his voice when he was asking and begging for his help. Somebody stop. I mean, so, please stop. I can't breathe. I played that message, and I told the city council, I have a message for my nephew. I played the recording, and I repeated word by word what my nephew was saying. And then I showed the photo of my nephew being strangled. For me, that's the way I share his story, because I want people to see what they did to my nephew. Everybody can say the story, and we can, in our mind, kind of put it together, but it makes it real when you see the story, you know, the pictures. It's not an autopsy photos, it's the actual murder, what they did. So I'm going to let you guys, I wrote this up for another presentation that I was in. So on July 2nd, for when my nephew, prior to July 2nd, he's been homeless since 2012, up and then to the date to 2016. He was homeless, and he was living at the park, Maxwell Park. And that's from Maxwell Park. It was about 9:30. He decided to walk, and he was walking on the street from away from the park, and a woman thought that he was following her. So she called the daughter and said, I think this man is following me. So my nephew walked past her house, crossed the street, went into the laundromat, and started to put his clothes in the laundromat. There is a YouTube video from the 7-Eleven showing him putting the clothes in the laundromat, in the laundry machine.
And,
There,
that's where it started, right?
that's where it started, and there's no audio. There's
Okay.
no audio there until later. It came out after a year and 4 months, because they showed both videos.
Okay.
So that's where it started, in the laundry room. So Officer Daniel Wolf is the one that strangled my nephew to death with the help of Wu Jian Jun, with the supervision of Daniel Gonzalez. And from what I could recall from the documentation, the officers were in testimony were saying that they didn't recall having any formal training in applying the chokehold. Sergeant Daniel Gonzalez supervised and gave instructions to Wolf on the chokehold. Also, Sergeant Gonzalez at the trial said that he didn't recall whether his training covered how to determine if the carotid hold was being applied properly. And the officers testify that. And Sergeant Gonzalez said that he wouldn't change a thing, and if he had to do it again, he would do it the same way. The officers used a chokehold on my nephew 4 times on that day, which is against training policy. A carotid hold must only be used on that time, one time in a 24-hour period. So, they went over their training and over protocol and over the policy. My family waited for 3 years and 5 months to see justice. On November 18th, the jury viewed the body cam footage worn by the officers and were able to see the truth, something we all knew along. They saw my nephew beg for his life, telling them over and over that he couldn't breathe and he was begging for help. The jury, the jury saw through the Anaheim attorney's lies and the police officers' lies and attempt cover-ups and found that the officers violated my nephew's civil rights. And they used excessive force, killing him on that day, July 2nd. The jurors awarded my niece and my nephew's children 13.2 million, which is they're appealing it. Afterwards, I was able to speak to the jurors, and I asked them how they felt when they saw 50 police uniform officers. There were 50 police officers. They were at the trial for 3 days, intimidating the jurors and, of course, the family. So, you know, it was just horrific, you know, and the lawyers for the Anaheim PD and the DAs, you know, of course, say the narrative about my nephew that he was under the influence, which came inconclusive because that's not what killed him. It was the lack of oxygen to his brain that killed him. So, you know, I like I said, I have a few things here that I wanted to, I kind of saved it, highlighted it.
Mhm.
The officer, Wolf, he observed a handle of a screwdriver in my nephew's duffel bag. So he asked my nephew to put his hands behind his back. And supposedly, you know, my nephew was saying, you know, what did I do? I didn't do anything. So the officer, Wolf, he grabbed his right arm and started to pull it behind his back. There was a struggle and they fell to the ground. And Officer June was the first one that attempted to use the carotid hold on my nephew. The parties dispute that type of neck restraint Officer June used, testify that he applied the carotid hold and that he wasn't aware that he did it incorrectly and that he thought maybe he used an air chokehold. So, you know, these officers use this chokehold, but they're saying that they don't even remember how they were even taught. I think this was the first, according to the documents, this was the first time that these officers use this carotid chokehold on my nephew.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that's gonna deprive someone of breathing. This is ridiculous. So many killings this way where their last words were, I can't breathe. And then also, initially, even before they were attacked, like your nephew, by the officers, they're saying, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's really you know, sickening. There was a renowned, his name was Bennett Omala, and he did a movie with Will Smith on football players. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. It's called Concussion. Well, he testified on my family's behalf and said, you know, that what killed my nephew was the chokehold and the lack of oxygen to his brain. And it wasn't the meth, and the meth didn't enlarge his heart because they were saying that the meth enlarged his heart and that's what killed him. But we have Obama, I mean, you know, this, see, now I'm losing my thought. He testified saying that's not what killed him.
Yeah, yeah. I am familiar with him. He who he is. And so was his
Well, I'll tell you what he said. His name is Bennett Omala. He testified. He said the officers ignored numerous clear signs that my nephew was having trouble breathing. Scott Defoe also testified and saying that he was gasping and his face was turning red. You should be able to look and say, this is not working. He was also one of the, he, you know, witness that testify. Well, not witness, but he testified for my nephew's trial.
Mhm.
So, it's really, sad. Yes, we won on the civil trial, but this needs to go criminal.
Yes, and
Mhm.
just again, I want to remind for people watching that aren't familiar with these, um, it's normal that when people are killed by police, we don't have the option to take them to criminal court and criminally trial them. That is left upon the DA to press those charges. We are not the DA. We cannot force, especially any of these crooked DAs, to press charges against other officials, even when they kill and murder. So what Marie was sharing is what they went through with their civil trial. So they sat through the civil courts, and that was the jury that found them to be, found that finding. So you also said that they are also appealing it already.
They're appealing it. I was going to get the documentations last night, but they were having difficulty with their site. Yes, it's under appeal right now. Another thing, they broke the hyoid bone in my nephew's neck, and they were trying to discredit the person that did the autopsy. And she said that they broke the hyoid bone, and they were, like I said, they were discrediting her, and they were saying that that happened when they pulled the tube out. That didn't, and she said that didn't happen in the tube because the hemorrhage of the bleeding when the bone broke was already hemorrhaging when they broke the bone. You don't hemorrhage when you're already dead. So, I mean, and another thing, what I know when we went to recess, the officers were at the elevator, and I had come up to the elevator because I was going to go have some lunch. We were on recess, and they were all making fun of the Nigerian Bennett Omala. And when one of the women saw me coming, she looked at her officers and she went, shh. So they were like jokesters,
Mm.
high-fiving, making jokes. They were mocking him with his accent. I mean, it was just the way you would see them. I was there for 7 days at the trial. They thought for sure they had it. They were with their puff chests and like, in their minds, they thought for sure they were going to win this case
Yeah.
because of their damn attitudes. And like I said, there were 50 officers there for
Yeah, and
three
they're used
days.
to doing this. Yeah, so I want to point that out to people watching too. When you shared earlier that there were about 50 of them, she's talking about when they went to trial that they came in an excessive amount of them. Were they all in uniforms?
Yes, on taxpayer money. Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully there wasn't any crime that day because all the officers were in LA.
So they got to get paid to sit there and support their fellow uh murderer friends slash associates, colleagues. And yeah, this is another normal thing when people are fighting against the police, and when we actually make it to trial for a civil trial, which is the only place we can make it to, some of us, but it could take years and a lot to get there. Um, Cops often, and there are other family members here who I know have experienced this at the trials, they will have intimidation methods to scare the family, intimidate the family at the damn trial. Like, so disrespectful. Um, yeah. So I do want to tell you, Marie, that people are on and watching with us right now. We have 20 people on right now. We've gotten some comments. So I'm just gonna just skim through these real quick and say hello to a couple people who joined us. Jenny Ruiz is on. Hello. Anne Marie Grant, Gina, Karen. I'm just saying first names now because I'm seeing more. Miss Grant. Let's see. Okay, and then Gina said, that's how it goes if we take it all the way to trial. Most who are awarded settlement end up going through years of appeals. Yes. Yes. And that's something I was going to say. Another normal thing is they will immediately try to appeal any winnings or anything that's not in their favor.
I will say, at the jury, once the verdict was read, what the foreman, Brian Marcus, he's of Los Angeles, he's a father of three. He said that he would have liked to give a heck lot more to my nephew's children.
Wait,
I mean, I
who's
kept looking at the jurors and they were disgusted because
wait, can you back up? I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I'm not sure if I heard this wrong. Can you repeat that?
the foreman, his name
Okay.
is Brian Marcus. He's from Los Angeles. Uh, there were eight jurors, but the foreman came out and said that he would have liked to give a heck. I'm quoting him, and I quote, I would like it to be a heck lot more for the family, for my
Okay.
nephew's children. So, I these jurors, I mean, I couldn't ask for better, or the jurors, because they saw right through these lies. I mean, they were even trying to discredit this doctor
The
because he is
professional.
Nigerian, Nigerian. So they were letting the jurors, telling the jurors that he got his degrees in Nigeria. What is, like, and so you didn't get your, they were saying, they were asking, questioning the doctor. So you're not educated here in the United States. You got your education in Nigeria. I mean, it's like we all know what the DA was trying to plant that seed,
Yeah.
that don't listen to this doctor because he's from Nigeria.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
was just one thing I want to, since we're here, I'd like to thank the supporters that did show up to the trial. It was Scott Rushing, Leticia, and Valerie, um, Darwin, Buki. They're from the Racial Justice Coalition. Emilio and Kim, and Valerie Rivera. Um, I really think it's really important that we have supporters, because you already know that these killer cops are going to have their supporters here. Before the COVID, I was working on a support group for family members for trial support. But then the COVID hit, because I really, really think it's important that we show up in numbers, that we support each other. We really lack in the support when it comes to trial. And for me, every morning that I would go to the trial, I had to leave my house like at 5 in the morning. It was a long drive, but like I said, I was at the trial for 7 days. It took 4 days for them to come out with the verdict, and it went in favor for my nephew's children.
That's great. Um that's that's how it should be. While we shouldn't have to ask for the criminal investigations to be fair and for accountability. We really shouldn't. But I just seeing a family at least get that win for their children is it's important, and for the jury to recognize and see this. But you would think, like, I personally, I would think common sense would be like, hey, so what's going to happen to these officers after all of this? And unfortunately, it's often nothing.
Nope, they're still working at the police station. Um, you know, in October, I got I started working with the Racial Justice Coalition on the I Can't Breathe campaign. They really supported me throughout this, and I respect their organization. We did get the chokehold banned in San Diego, and fast forward, then what happened to George Floyd. That also, we were also able to come up with this AB 1196. I asked by ACLU along with Emilio and uh, the Stop Coalition and Ellie. if I could testify in the Capitol. And of course, I couldn't go in person, but I did it online. And this was my what I wanted and hope that, that there would be a chokehold bill. And I had asked few ACLU members if we could create a bill, but they said with the voting, with the election, it wouldn't be possible. But then this happened with George Floyd. Fast forward, Gibson created the bill and it passed. Let's see if it's going to really work. It goes into law in January, just like a lot of these bills, AB 392 and the other one, 1421. So far, it hasn't really been working in our favor. We all know that.
Yes. Yeah. So what Marie's sharing about is different California legislative changes that have been made over these last 3 or so many years. And 1421, that's for the transparency on the police records, especially when they're involved in misconduct and deaths. And a lot of families have been unsuccessful. That's a California law, unsuccessful in getting that honored. And then we have what was it, 392?
Yes,
Yeah, that
that
one is
passed.
for the use of force. And as we see, people are still being killed at alarming rates here in California. So that's
Yeah, but
why it's hard to have faith in these law changes, even though a lot of people work so hard at them. Um, and so I want to go back real quick. We're getting some comments. We got a couple other family members agreeing with the importance of child support. And we have Gina here, mother of Autumn Steele. We shouldn't have to beg of support for others. Um, Jenny Ruiz, she says they were all alone in their trial, and they also were intimidated by these officers uh, during this time. So just for people watching that are not impacted family members, what we're sharing here, these are our individual stories, but many of the families have this similar experiences, and there are some common things that happen, and that's just one of them. So I am going to share I didn't get into the second video, which it's a trigger warning, guys. So there's some photos that show, stills of the assault.
before you share that, Marissa, I also wanted to let you guys know I am also working with ACLU and YJC and Stop Coalition, along with other organizations. We're working on a decertification bill. So, it didn't get introduced in the last season, but hopefully that we'll be able to get that introduced and again, pass another bill, because what I would really like to see is that if they lose in a trial, on a civil trial, their badges should be taken away. They should no longer be able to. They shouldn't be cops anymore. I mean, we went to trial, we won. Bye bye. Take their badges away.
Absolutely.
You know.
I absolutely agree. We get fired for smaller things and less serious type of jobs. Like there should be high standards for these police officers who are armed and have the license to kill. Definitely. Again, one
And
of the
fine. I'm a hairdresser. If I cut someone's ear or burn someone's scalp, I'm going to get fined and possibly get my license taken away. And it should be the same way for these cops. That's why this decertification bill is very, very important, that it does, when it comes up, that it passes.
Yes. We have a question I would like to hit real quick. We have Anne Marie Grant. Did Marie ever have the opportunity to confront any of the killer cops?
Oh, yes, I did. I did. Um, in the summertime after George Floyd, we all met at the Anaheim Police Station. And just as I do, with every protest and rallies, I take my pictures of the murdering cops and share them. Well, that day I took 11, and they had all it barricaded, around the Anaheim Police Station. And I was sharing all the pictures. And, I don't know if these three officers, if you can see them, were there. This is the one right here, Daniel Wolf. I call him Pee Wee Herman. He's the one that choked my nephew. This one, he also choked my nephew in the laundromat. I call him Little Grasshopper. This one is the sergeant that was giving directions to Daniel Wolf. I call him Officer Speedy Gonzalez. And the reason why I give those names, because in my mind, they're characters. They're characters. And that little shit here, I mean, if you were to see him, he was a little shit, really skinny,
Yep.
you know, and both these officers have their mothers there. When they read the verdict that their sons were responsible for the death of my nephew, the mothers put their head down. But they were there, you know, 4 days out of the 7 days that we were in trial. But those are the three officers. They're there standing up, waiting to hear the verdict. Someone sent me this picture. Yeah, the picture of the officers. I waited, you know, like a year to make a copy of it. But I was at the Anaheim Police Station, and this is the one that I kept showing to the officers and saying their names and calling them murderers, and also showing the pictures of them strangling my nephew. I have no problem sharing the truth because that's the truth, you know. And they didn't want the jurors to see the videos of them choking my nephew.
Of course they
One
did.
one of the jurors stood up and they asked, why is that? The lawyer said, that juror standing up, are you okay? And the judge said, we have to take a recess. So they took a recess. He couldn't handle it anymore because for 4 days they were showing that video of my nephew being choked. And there was even more of that video that they didn't show on YouTube. They hogtied him. They were on top of his back with his legs up and handcuffs, and they hogtied him. He was already limp. They didn't want the jurors to see that. That's why I feel so important. It's so important to show these graphic pictures of him being choked. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, I any opportunity that I get to confront these officers, I show these pictures, and they don't like it.
Gosh. And it's, you know what? It's just horrible that as the impacted family members that we have to be the ones to step up and do this, because if we don't, nobody's going to do it. People won't know the truth. Like if us families wouldn't be here fighting for so many years to get a little bit of truth, we'd never know. It would just be covered up like many are. Okay, I'm gonna go into the second video, which it's about on 7 seconds each video, so it should be a little bit to slide through. A trigger warning, guys. It just shares. It shows some of the pictures of the murder. Oh, let me try that one more time. I wasn't into the right screen yet. Okay, guys, I'm going to share this again. Going to start this one over. So this is the trigger warning video, guys, for anybody watching, sharing some of the after. We talked about him before in his life and stuff, and this is some truths behind.
Yeah, that's my brother, the mother, and my nephew's sister when they were starting taking the tube off. And that's my sister Lulu.
He was only 32. Look at it, looks like he's smiling in that damn picture
Yes.
too.
Yep.
Some of them are from, protests that you guys participated in. And then we got some of the pictures in between. Marie has been to many things.
The Sacramento.
Yeah.
I created this for the chokehold bill for my nephew. We passed the chokehold. This is the first poster board that I took to the Anaheim City Council meeting. This is what I showed them. I've taken this is in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I seen me and Marie, we both went out there.
This is in Minneapolis. Las Vegas. That's in the laundromat.
Where it started, guys.
That's in the laundromat when they first started going in there. Look, and you notice that they have their gloves on. They're ready. They're prepared.
It looks like they're there looking for trouble to do what
Yeah,
they did.
that's my brother, his only son. And that's another thing that these these are the cops. This is the sergeant right there looking at my brother. Look at all those fucking assholes.
Was there any photos you wanted me to go back to share anything more about any specific ones, or are you okay with?
I'm okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that again. You know, guys, it's not something we want to do. We don't want to distribute these photos of our loved ones and live these memories again, even though we do every day. But this is the reality.
Another thing I want people be aware with these lawyers, they're nothing but sharks. They did a really good one on my brother. You know, like I said, he would have never known what these lawyers were up to and what they did. They did a real good one. And how I found out is by all these documents that my brother didn't even receive. My brother didn't even prevail. They wrote something up for him saying that the only part that he wants the jurors to agree that the intent of the Anaheim police when they were choking my nephew was to kill him, to murder him. And I told my brother, why did you agree to that? You agreed to something that was already, they already said that, you know, through the criminal part, that the cops did their job and you agree. And so he didn't prevail in that one thing. The lawyers were dirty and crooked in what they did to my brother. My brother is not getting one penny. And he wasn't aware of that. When we were hearing the, you know, the award, and my brother didn't catch it, but Valerie is the one that told my brother, hey, wait, how come you're not being awarded? They
Oh, he
did a
didn't know even there at court until
till after, because they, and you know, and I kept, every time my brother would go to meet the lawyers, they never wanted me to be in the room. Why? Because I was my brother's eyes and ears. They're dirty sharks. You know, yes, I'm happy that my nephew's children were awarded, but that was some bullshit what they did to my brother. And the only reason why they did that is because my brother has a criminal history. And they thought, you know, it's the money. If they bring my brother, they may not get the money. But everybody knew. I mean, I was looking at the videos. Everybody knew this was a slam dunk what they did to my nephew. We already knew that they're gonna win,
yeah.
but the lawyers are greedy. It's about the money. It's about the money.
And thank you for sharing that, Marie. That's been a common theme and on the show and just with families in general having issues with these lawyers, these ain't shit lawyers.
Can't
And
trust them.
it's a lot of corruption just going throughout and everybody, it seems like everybody involved, like we have to depend, we're supposed to depend on lawyers to help us get justice, but we can't even depend on them to be honest with us, and we are their client as their clients. I definitely understand and relate to them not wanting you in the room with your brother, which he has the right to take you in there with him, I would believe,
Yes.
especially if he's not understanding and catching on to everything that they're throwing or keeping. But they definitely, lawyers did that to my family as well. They wanted to speak to my parents separated. when my family didn't want that. Just for people watching, my family, we went to a settlement conference a month prior to Marie's nephew's trial. We went just a month earlier, and my brother was killed in a similar way. My family got offered a disrespectful settlement, and then the next month, the outcome of their case came. So I just want to share that because I want to remind families that through this, they're going to try to knock us down. They're going to try to make us give up, lose hope. Some people will be too much into their depression and grief to fight back, and that's what they want.
And
They're going to try to tell us we won't win.
and you know what the lawyers, they offered my brother to drop out and give him an old car, a truck. You know,
I
they
remember you telling me that.
yes, but I'm going to tell you something, and I quote this too. The judge Cormac Carney came out and told the jurors and the lawyers for the Anaheim police that the body cams is the evidence of this case because they kept wanting to dispute what was happening in the body cam footage. And you can see exactly that says it all, you know. So with the body cams, you have a better chance to win a case.
Yeah, and while we're speaking, I'm like, I'm so glad that it was captured and eventually the truth came out because every person and their family, we deserve the truth to be known. And there are so many that, well, their body cams weren't working, they weren't on, they malfunctioned. So there are so many that we can't get the truth from.
And they don't
But
even want to release it. They don't want the family to see it. It took a year and 4 months and two conferences. First conference was saying that they don't know how he died and you know, sorry to the Valenzuelas and this and that. And they waited. If they, I mean, show the video. What are they hiding? It took a year and 4 months to show us the video.
yep, yep, that's absolutely ridiculous. Goodness, so much. I'm gonna go through a couple comments real quick. And then Marie, I always tell whoever's on, just check the comments later so you can see who is leaving you comments. Marty Winkler, she's a survivor of a police assault. That's what she's talking about, the gloves. That's what I call the I'm going to fuck you up gloves. Um, then we have Mr. Gonzalez, sorry for your losses. Cops killing with a smile on his face. Disgusting. Um, Let's see. Gina, she's saying some states don't award the victims' parents. Few states do, which yes, that's true. She said if the victim has a spouse or children that who is awarded settlement, yet she was recognized in Iowa as a parent. So it really differs. I'm sharing this too because it really differs from every state, county. Really, it can be so different for every family. We have Christine Lee Rose. They take advantage of the parents' state of shock as well. Absolutely. We see that.
Mhm.
We see that. We come into this not knowing anything about it, and people are hurting and they absolutely take advantage.
Yep, and trust your gut. If you feel that these lawyers are not truthworthy and they're not like all these documents. My brother didn't get any documents. Why weren't they giving him any documents? Because there are things here that they didn't want my brother to see. And even when we went into the trial, they didn't want us to go in. They didn't want us. And I said, I'm going in. The public can go in.
Yeah, no,
I
what
mean,
the
they were
hell?
not, don't get me wrong. They won the trial, but they're shisky. It was all about the money, all about the money and what they did to my brother. I'm sure they'd do it to another family. Just be aware. Be aware.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's, a great reminder to all families. And I think a lot of us learned the hard way about being aware of and catching these red flags from these lawyers. I see new families from this year coming on, obtaining lawyers. I'm always like, who, like, if it's someone I recognize as being this way, it's, it's worrisome for me, but it's hard for us to really share this knowledge with brand new families who are very new in their grief. And how are we supposed to tell new families, like, hey, your loved one was killed. They're going to justify it. They're going to say they were okay. And you know what? You need to watch out for everybody, including your own lawyers. It's, we shouldn't have to be doing it like this.
And another thing I want to also, um, say to the ones that are getting ready to go on depositions, remember your deposition, remember word by word, even write something out, because all your depositions are going to be used in the trial when they ask you to go up there on the stand and testify, and they try to trip you up. They go back and they ask you the questions every which way just to see if you trip on it.
Mhm.
There were even testimonies that they perjured themselves, but it wasn't caught. They perjured themselves, and I heard it.
Hmm.
So, make sure when you be ready and try to remember how you answer those questions, and then go home and write the way you answer them, and keep studying them, because when that day comes and they ask you to go up there, they're going to base your questions on the depositions.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you. I know there are a lot of families that need all the advice they can get, especially when it comes to the court area. I do want to touch back on, we got about 5 minutes, or I don't know, my clock could be off, but a couple minutes left. So I want to really touch back on, I really like how you're sharing advice about the trial, but I want to go back to the court support. And we talked about how important it is for trials and just, court in general for families. So I got a question. So since right now I know there are trials coming up for some families, and some of us are unsure, is it going to be virtual trials? And what do you think? How do you think, since you've sat through a trial, how do you think it could differ by sitting virtual? I, for one, think that a lot of us can join in and be in there, a lot of us from different areas. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I do think that because of this COVID, it is going to be virtual, and they're still having cases, among lawyers and from both sides. But as jurors, I'm not aware that jurors are, if they're having trials with jurors. But, like I said, before this COVID, I had been working on, and in fact, I talked to Valerie about it, on creating a page for LA and Orange County and all the surrounding areas out here where I live for court support. I was even willing to, because I know hard times, not too many people have transportation or funds. I'm willing even to cover the cost of an Uber or a train, or if someone's in my area or LA, to pick them up, because we really need to support each other when we're going through trial, because it's better. And you see the cops, you saw for yourself 50 of them there supporting their killer cops,
Yeah,
and we have to support our loved ones. And and numbers with support speaks volumes. So
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, having the support there. So I commend you for that, for looking into getting something together for that, as your family experienced that and you've seen others. Marie, you guys has been supportive of other families and their trials, and went and sat in. These things could last, we don't know always how long they're going to last. And yeah, thank you for being willing to help people support other people as well. um let's
I
see.
want to thank Marissa too. Marissa, I'm so glad that you came up with this platform. Sometimes we do have um, you know, support calls, but you can't see the faces.
Mhm.
I really like how you have this set up with Zoom, because then you can see the family.
Yeah.
I thank you for that, and I will support your organization, and You know, as you know, there are many, many families that want to come out and tell their story, and you've given us that platform to let our voices be heard. And I want to thank you, and I appreciate, and I'm so proud of you, like if you were my daughter.
Oh, thank
Your
you.
mom's probably so proud of you too, and your dad.
Oh,
God,
thank you.
your brother must he's proud of you. You know, he sees you. I don't know if you guys believe in that, or you can feel the presence, or just a scent,
Yeah,
but I'm sure you feel his presence, and he is very lucky to have you. Very
thank you.
lucky.
Thank you. And I am a
Very
believer.
blessed.
Thank you so much. And so I do want to share just for people who are on that don't know about the show too much, just real quick. We're on episode 8. I am running these weekly for the impacted families. We have a different family coming on every week. I'm highlighting one victim per week so that they can have this hour to share about their loved one and who they were, and then get into the story, which I know we could talk for days because all of our stories have so much more. But I really wanted to give families, especially families that haven't been able to really have the chance to share their stories. And then it's with me, it's not with the random person who doesn't understand. So I think that's important too. Um, I will go through a couple of the comments. We got some comments in real quick. And sorry guys, we're missing some, but you know how it is when we're running these. So we got some talk on, oh wait, Gina, I wanted to go back to her comment. She said about the depositions, demand a copy of all depositions taken. You have the right to have a copy. Um,
And again, was not offered to my family. I think on like a week before the trial. I think they gave them to my brother. I'm not sure. I have to check with that. But like I said, they weren't giving him anything. They were just on the down low. I mean, in their minds, they were hoping that he would just go away.
okay. We have a couple people talking about the court stuff. So I'm just going to read them a couple opinions from our viewers right now. We have a Norma, court will be in person, not virtual. Only the ones that are testifying will be allowed in court. Um, Gina, great support found in California, not so much for others in other states. Yeah, I've noticed that. I've been felt thankful at times, even though this is nothing to be thankful for this position, but um, having other families close and doing organizing efforts with them definitely has helped than being out there alone. Jason G, I think virtual trials is a very bad idea. It's important for the jurors to see the demeanor and body language of the cops on the stand. Absolutely
Yep.
agree.
Yes.
And the reason I brought it up is because my family was scheduled for trial this coming year, and that's over here in Sacramento through the federal courts, and they had told us like we don't know yet. It's up in the air still about if it will be a virtual court or in person. Our trial is getting pushed back, so I don't know further, but let's see. So we got just comments, support. And Gina, once again, she says, your lawyer is supposed to see you get copies of it all. Supposed to, yeah. And
We know that. Yeah, we know that, but you know,
sometimes they
not
don't.
all the time.
Tommy Henley, hello, thank you for coming on. He says the judge just released that our statement is valid and violation of civil rights were violated. Good, good, good to hear. And I hope to see progress on Timmy's case. Okay. So I'm gonna read one last one. We just got it from Miss Grant. She's been great and leaving some helpful comments on there, you guys. So if you guys, even those watching, if you check out the comments later, there's a lot of advice and info that you guys can find within our videos, and not just this one, on the other ones. As we're sharing our experiences, we learn a lot from each other. She says, look for photographs in news society pages, judges and attorneys and officers, DAs together at lunches, parties, society, charity functions, golfing, city functions. You can tell a lot from photos. If they socialize outside of work, which they do, that can be an issue. Also look for relationships between officers, attorneys, judges, hospitals, administration, doctors, funerals, homes, coroners. If they're related, there's a conflict of interest. Thank you. And that goes much deeper into what we're all up against. I think if we all had full transparency on our cases, there would be so much more conflicts of interest that we would see. And I think we all find the ones within our cases out. We find some, but there's so much more. And so she's just sharing, dig deeper, like when we're going through our courts and stuff, even see who your judges are and everything that you just said. Very, very helpful comments. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Marie, is there anything else you want to share with us? Any advice for anybody watching? Anything?
Just support one another, and I mean, with COVID and everything, it's hard to get together, reach out, to the ones, like your nieces or your nephew or any family members if you know that they're going through something, because the way things are right now, we're in danger. Our life is in danger, and it seems even more so. And these bills doesn't even seem to, they're not working. I did make a promise to my nephew. My family asked me to cut his hair because he always used to like the way I cut his hair when he was younger. So I gave him his last haircut. I had a one-on-one with him, and I told him that my promise to him that I continue to share his story. I know sometimes I feel like a broken record because I'm always saying that, but it's true. I told him, Ebee, people are going to hear your story and I'm going to show what they did to you. And I am making that promise. And I have the support of my brother, his father, and my whole family. They give me my blessings. They approve of my way of sharing. I know not everybody approves. I'm not out to hurt anybody. I'm just simply sharing what they did to my nephew, along with, the video. They wanted everybody to see how they kill him. Well, I want to continue to share that so that people don't forget what they did to my nephew.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. Thank you for sharing all of that, everything, and taking the time to come on with us. And also for being of service and help to the other impacted families around us, or when the new ones come.
And I
Um,
am redirecting my energy now. I'm working on bills to, so that these bills will pass. I feel that that's one way that that I'm trying to get back at them in that way to get these bills to pass.
that's great, Marie. And I do want to share real quick before we get off. You know, everybody, we could play our different roles and our parts. Like Marie, I have helped, I have joined in on the bill stuff, but honestly, I don't like that crap. It's not my thing. I don't want to be in that space. So I do appreciate other impacted family members are sharing space to contribute to those, because it's not what I want to do. I'd rather be here talking to the families and providing this platform. There are a couple people that are new to me on here that I just want to let you guys know, a couple new family members that I haven't got to personally talk to yet. So I'll be requesting you guys, definitely, if any families out there, if you guys want to have a week dedicated to your loved one to come on and share your story, I am running them all through year 2021. So we're going to have a lot of families on. Just reach out to me and I can help you share your stories. If people don't want to come on like us on video and speak, if you're not there yet or not comfortable with it, you can still reach out to me and I can help you find another alternative to get your story out there. I picture one day, right now, we have other impacted family members and supporters coming on. I have met new people over these past 8 weeks because of this show. But I picture, just a few months from now, we're going to have a whole big old library of these stories. So I see this as growing into something more powerful and important for the victims and us families as a way of sharing our stories. So I thank you guys, everybody who supported and listened to our stories.
Thank you.
And okay, so we're gonna close it up. Thank you again, Marie. You have a good night. Everybody else who joined, thank you. Anybody who's catching the recording later, make sure you find us on Voice of Strength on the Facebook. Our website will be up soon. All right, bye guys. Have a good night, and we'll be back next week.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.